Welcome to the Green Nurse Podcast, where we bring hope and inspiration for growth and healing. We're here to change the dialogue and stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. And before we get started on this very special episode of honoring the authors of Courage in Cannabis, we are going to tell you a little bit about what we do in the cannabis space as nurses, and then we'll get started.
Paradigm of healthcare.
The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I'm the founder of Holistic Caring. We're based here in California, and we do educational programs and case management for patients on how to use cannabis therapeutically as a medicine.
We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high, hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing.
As the founder of Holistic Caring, I basically oversee the whole ship, and what we're doing is progressive education.
Cannabis actually supports all 11 organ systems, our immune system, and all the neurotransmitter signaling systems that give messages to tell our body to either do something or not do something. Because the plant was prohibited, it prevented health professionals, doctors and nurses from learning about cannabis as medicine.
I want to change the paradigm of healthcare, and us paving the way into a new vanguard of medicine.
It's about education, it's about empowerment, it's about teaching people how to feel good, bridging the gap from what they're not getting from traditional medicine, utilizing different plant medicines, adaptogens, tips, tricks, hugs, and nugs of information to support and nourish the most important system in our body.
And it's a lot of soul work, a lot of love, a lot of discipline, and meditation. I'm using my life work as a testimony to others to learn how they can be their own hero and then go help heal the world.
And we are, as nurses, the game changers.
There you go. Growing your health, growing in cannabis. I am so honored and grateful to be able to bring the Courage in Cannabis authors to life in our very special series, honoring the authors of Courage in Cannabis. I'm going to pull up the website so you all can see all about this amazing book, Volume 2, Courage in Cannabis. So Courage in Cannabis is a compilation of stories written by doctors, lawyers, patients, caregivers, entrepreneurs, and activists. Each story is unique and written with the hope of inspiring others. In these times, anyone that chooses cannabis or enters the industry has a story of courage. This is simply true because a very short time ago, cannabis was illegal everywhere in North America. It still is Schedule 1, but we're working hard on that. The authors in this book took a leap of faith and courage when deciding that cannabis was the option for their lives. Some of you will find had to go as far as questioning their spiritual faith in the process. The stories in the book are meant to help and motivate others. Ultimately, we believe this book is for you. As you read and delve into the chapters, you'll get to know the authors intimately, learning of their struggles, their triumphs, and the perseverance it took to be able to share their story in the pages of this book. The power is in the stories. So today we get to meet another one of those inspiring authors, Danielle Simone Brand, AKA the Weed Mom. And I want to pull her little page up here very quickly. There are all of the authors are in here. The authors, let's find Danielle. Volume 2. Here she is. Click to read her beautiful bio. Actually, I'm going to read it. So Danielle Brand is a writer, media maker, and mother of two who inspires other mothers to live life intentionally and on their own terms, possibly with a little help from cannabis. Whether teaching yoga, or meditation on Capitol Hill, authoring the book Weed Mom, or attempting also off home gridding off of Colorado foothills, Danielle's mission is to inform, uplift, and occasionally challenge her audience while helping to push the conversation forward. She's a master's in international peace and conflict resolution from the American University, a bachelor's of arts from Dartmouth College, and an inability to do the same thing in the same place for a very long time. She is a writer, and her articles have appeared in numerous publications, including the New York Times, Vice, The Week, Civilized, Double Blind, Scary Mommy, What's Up Moms, and of course, we have her book, The Weed Mom, which I cannot wait to talk about as well.
Hello, Sherri. Thank you so much for that. And thanks so much for having me back on. It's been a few minutes since we it's been a while, huh? Yeah.
It has been a while, but it is so good to have you back on here. You actually, what I really love is you've done so much in the space. You have a really, really cool story that we're going to get into. But what I'm really grateful for too is, as a mom, you took the course. You took the time to write a course from us based on your book, Cannabis Wellness for Moms.
Yes, I was so happy to do that. Because I want this information to get out there to as many moms as possible. Information about, your endocannabinoid system and how cannabis works with our body to support health, wellness, wholeness, mind, body, spirit, balance, the things that I've benefited so much and, found so many other moms in my life to benefit from. So, I just want to get this info out there. So it's the course, it's my book, it's, lots of other media, and, we just got to keep telling this story, talking about it. That's how I see it. We're at that point, where the more we talk, the quicker we're going to get normalization.
Exactly. And so let's just talk about, the book. Why did you want to be a part of Courage in Cannabis? What was the...
Yeah. Well, okay. So volume 1, which came out a year and a half or so ago, was really inspiring. I know many of the authors in that book. And so that, I read their inspiring, heartwarming, courageous stories. And also I had interacted with Dr. Bridget several times on a podcast, on a panel, and, was just really impressed by her knowledge. And, also through that process, I had met some of her patients, some of her community, and learned what people said about her when she wasn't in the room. And what they said about her, even when she wasn't in the room, is that she is a doctor who's willing to really go deep with patients and, get to know them as a human being and help them, not just by prescribing something that's a quick fix, but by actually, practicing medicine the way that we hope doctors would. And nurses, of course, which our beautiful green nurses do. We know this. So again, I was just impressed by that. And I knew she brought a lot to the table. So when she asked me to be a part of it, I was like, yes, sign me up.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, and it's hard. This is a topic. Well, you've written The Weed Mom, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But, tell us about your Courage in Cannabis chapter and the story that you portrayed in this book.
Yeah. So I wrote a spark, which is a little shorter contribution to this book. And it's essentially my why as the author of my book, Weed Mom, which you have mentioned a couple times. And then, my subsequent speaking platform and, sort of media presence based around the ideas of the book, which is about advocating for moms to have the choice to consciously and responsibly use plant medicines, and especially cannabis. And, I shared that spark in the same spirit that I share my book, in the same spirit that I shared the course. It's, to destigmatize, to get the message out that, when treated with respect, cannabis can be a beautiful help and tool in so many different ways, especially for moms for whom it's, there's still barriers. It's still a little inaccessible. So that's, moms are close to my heart, and that's my message. And I just want to get that word out there more and just be part of that cultural change, part of that tipping point. So, I'm hoping that my work does contribute to that.
Yeah. Well, then let's dive a little bit into, because your chapter, Encouraging Cannabis, had to do with the Weed Mom. So why don't we dive a little bit into that for our viewers? And you know, what was the weed mom, the can of
Love
curious.
this weed mom. Yes, yes. Well, you know, so it's a book that chronicles my personal journey from being, you know, a cannabis skeptic, someone who misunderstood it, to truly embracing it as a health and wellness tool for me in my everyday life. And, you know, so I do that through the lens of my personal experience, but I'm a journalist and I was freelance writing about cannabis and interviewing lots of experts and nurses and docs and researchers and scientists about cannabis before I wrote the book. So I really wanted to integrate all of that into an easy to use guide for this demographic, moms that are just harder to reach when it comes to the cannabis message. And also the second part of this book is that I wanted to help normalize having conversations about this plant, you know, and offer tips and, you know, ways into the conversation, like with partners, with children in our lives, with older folks in our lives, with friends, etc. So yeah, I'm hoping it can be this. I mean, I think that it has been to a large degree, but you know, I'm hoping that it can be even more this guide to this changing cultural conversation that we're in.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you want women to know about cannabis? What is your bottom line in that great, big, beautiful book?
Well, you know, the message truly is that responsible use, but even like beyond responsible, you know, intentional, conscious use. And I know that you, Sherri, use a lot of these words, and that's a big, you know, part of your practice too, is talking about building an intentional relationship with the plant. So that's what I'm about, is conscious and intentional use. It can be a huge help to moms, whether that's, you know, for medicine in place of many pharmaceuticals that have side effects, often unwanted, often very difficult to deal with when you're also trying to be, you know, to parent, or whether that's for wellness, you know, for this kind of middle space between, you know, medical and so-called recreational or adult use, but wellness is vast space of like sleeping better and, you know, having, you know, better experiences of intimacy and having less day-to-day pain and, you know, aches and pains and all that of life and, you know, addressing women's health issues through cannabis. And then of course we've got on the other side of it, relaxing, connecting with other people, having fun, which is important too. So all these ways I think that cannabis can be so supportive for women and moms. So again, it's getting that word out there. And, you know, knowing that like
to feel good too, right? Women, we deserve to feel good. We deserve to relax.
Yes.
We deserve to put our oxygen mask on first. And sometimes that means just sinking in, right? And being present for ourselves. We have to be able to hold space for ourselves. And what I've found for a lot of moms is that cannabis allows them that moment to sink in and hold space for themselves, to be human.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, so my background before becoming a freelance writer was, well, before was research in academia, and then intervening was yoga teaching and mindfulness and wellness, teaching wellness tools in and around Capitol Hill in DC. And so all of that comes into cannabis for me, right? Like you were saying, it's about, you know, ways to drop in, tools for deepening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tools for deepening.
Tools for deepening. Oh, I thought we were breaking, but no, I can go on.
No, it's all right. Yeah, no, it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah. So, you know, dropping in. So cannabis is an enhancer for yoga. It's an enhancer for meditation. Again, used consciously, used judiciously. You know, enhancer for our other ways of self-care, whether that's, you know, hiking in the woods, you know, communing with nature, communing with our circle of friends, or just one good friend. You know, cannabis can be such a tool for deepening and getting to know yourself better. And yes, moms deserve that, and moms deserve space. Moms deserve pleasure.
And here's an educational moment from one of your favorite green nurses. So this is about teaching moms how to do what? Get into the relaxation response, right? Because we figure out as human beings, we are wired to seek bliss, to seek ecstasy, to seek pleasure, to escape. But what if we can choose healthy things, right? Making a choice to hold space for ourselves to get into the relaxation response. So the cannabis, the endocannabinoid system, modulates both the fight or flight response and the relaxation response. And so how cool is it that we can modulate this system by using cannabis and or other tools to modulate the system. So like you said, pairing cannabis with yoga enhances the yoga, enhances the cannabis, and increases the chances for healing. You know, pairing cannabis with breath work, with walking, with exercising, with pairing it with nutrition, with specific foods and activities. That's what we call about nourishing your endocannabinoid system can be done with or without cannabis. And so one of the things that we do is we teach safe consumption, right? In the absence of cannabis, what can you do to get into the relaxation response, right? So it's really about teaching healthy choices so we can sink in and be the best moms possible.
Absolutely. Yep. Well said. Thank you for that moment of education, because yeah, absolutely. That has been my experience. That's been the experience of so many moms that I have interviewed. That, you know, so many people tell me that they wouldn't have even tried yoga had it not been for cannabis, had it not been for, you know, calming down their racing mind, their anxiety, their to-do list, you know, whatever is going on, in order, or relieving enough pain to be able to get down on the ground and feel a little bit more deeply into their bodies. And, you know, as a yoga teacher too, I want to make it more accessible for folks. And this is a way to make self-care, including yoga and spiritual practices, more accessible.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I first started doing yoga, I mean, I was so stiff. I could barely, like, literally, I couldn't even touch my knees. And so so just to think about, cannabis works on mind, body, spirit. So it was able to help me to sink into the relaxation response, help me not feel so self-conscious about being so stiff and feeling old and not being able to move, and just really to be in my own body and pay attention to what I needed, right? It gives you an opportunity to really look in and to heal on multiple different levels. I love pairing it. What I really want to know, because you've been doing this for a while, you've been around for a while. I've had you on my podcast like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so 3 years ago, I'm not sure exactly, but it's been a while. But what has changed? So you've been interviewing women around the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what has changed from your interviews from the beginning to now? What have you seen for trends?
Yeah. Okay. So it's very interesting because, you know, first of all, the stigmas do persist. And I would say that 100 years of prohibition, more or less, right? Plus the continuing Schedule I status that cannabis has, they don't help. Like, you know, they don't help overall. But at the same time, as we all know, you know, record-breaking numbers of Americans are pro-cannabis legalization, right? You know, somewhere in the 90% range, depends on what, you know, poll you look at for medical, right? At least. So what I found is that, you know, absolutely stigmas persist. They're waning in parts of the country where legalization has been going on for a couple of years, you know, 2, 3, 4+ years. The sky absolutely hasn't fallen, and you know, it has just become a part of life a little bit more, you know, more normally. However, I think moms are still kind of that, you know, that final frontier where the stigma is there. There's still fear around it. There's a narrative of fear around it. I would also say that as acceptance and normalization and access has opened up, more anti-cannabis sentiment has popped up. You know, in the media, we see that for sure. Now, I don't necessarily see that I don't see that at all in the people that I interviewed, people on the ground, but I see more fear mongering in the media. Yeah. So I wonder how that's going to play out. You know, and also I wrote the book, like you said, it came out, you know, almost 3 years ago already, and the landscape has changed in terms of what's out there, what's on offer. So, you know, we have all these hemp-derived cannabinoids out there now.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a whole different story, right?
It is a whole different story, and it's a whole different way of how it works in the body. And we're playing with chemistry. It's
right.
And chemicals and interactions in our body. So yes, it can be very, very scary. So
there are people out there having experiences, you know, some good or neutral, and some not so good with novel cannabinoids that, you know, maybe aren't either, they're not a good source, or they're just not aware of the proper dosing. So, I see that too. I see more, a little more fear, a little more misinformation because of this proliferation of new products. What would solve that, obviously, is if we could just get, decriminalization and some normalized, federalized way, a system of handling cannabis, right? And handling THC, Delta 9 THC. But that's where we are. So, so I see things changing. I see the needle pushing forward, but I still see a lot of room for improvement. And, I've been saying this for a few years, but I think we're kind of on, we're on a tipping point. We're at a tipping point, and it might not be like a 6-month process. It might be more like a 10 to 20-year process, but in the course of history, that's relatively short.
Yeah. Well, I do have some exciting news to share, which I'm hoping will completely 100% change and decrease stigma. So you ready for this?
Let's hear it.
The American Nurses Association officially recognizes cannabis nursing as a specialty nursing practice.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. And that's brand new, I see. Oh my gosh.
Just right off the press, right? Literally. So the American Nurses Association, representing the interests of the nation's more than 5 million nurses, announces the formal recognition of cannabis nursing as a nursing specialty. Cannabis nursing is identified by the American Cannabis Nurses Association as a specialty nursing practice focused on the care of healthcare consumers seeking education and guidance in the therapeutic use of cannabis. So I am truly hoping, yes. We are as nurses, changing the game and changing the face. And a lot of us nurses, a lot of us cannabis nurses are also moms, right? And so, we fit into we totally are weed moms, and a lot of our journey too. And I'll just share personally for those that are out there. I started off as a medical cannabis patient, sick and suffering on the other side of the bed. I never knew that cannabis could work for me as medicine ever, because how could it? I was on 18 pharmaceuticals. The 18 pharmaceuticals did nothing. So how could this plant help me? Well, I'll tell you. I inhaled Ananda, and I felt that molecule go into my body and open up my mind, open up my consciousness, and truly help me to get into the relaxation response, and helped me with pain immediately, something that 18 pharmaceuticals didn't help. So the bottom line is cannabis worked for me as medicine, helped me get off of 18 pharmaceuticals, helped me to start living my best life. And as a nurse, I felt compelled to start to learn and investigate how and why that happened. And what I learned is we have an endocannabinoid system that they don't teach in nursing school. They're not teaching it in medical school, but just because they don't teach it doesn't mean that it's not real. It is very real. And so this is what we're doing as cannabis nurses, is we are coming forth teaching on the endocannabinoid system, the safe utilization of cannabis as medicine. The National Council State Boards of Nursing put out a call to action in 2018 that all nurses, nurse practitioners, and advanced practice nurses must have 6 essential areas of knowledge when it comes to cannabis as medicine. And now, finally, after years and years of cannabis nursing pushing forward, us nurses truly trying to help patients, and the American Cannabis Nurses Association has been able to take all of this together and to have written the scope and standards that was presented to the American Nurses Association, and then they've approved it. So there's going to be a publication that's going to be coming out on the scope and standards. And then what we're going to be doing is working towards creating an exam for advanced practice nurses and registered nurses and master's prepared nurses, 3 different exams. So, and then you have to create the studying. And so basically cannabis nursing is recognized as a subspecialty. Nurses will be able to be tested. They'll be able to get board certified. And that's really, really powerful stuff. So I'm hoping that will also help to push the needle forward. And
yes, really- absolutely. Oh my gosh. Your work and your advocacy is really making a difference. I hope you're so proud of this.
I'm so proud of all the nurses that haven't given up, because it is hard. It is really, really hard to do this work every day, because you are met with resistance. You're met with a lot of resistance, a lot of stigma, a lot of bias, a lot of judgment, a lot of unlearning. A lot of people have to unlearn a lot and relearn. And plant medicine model is very different than a pharmaceutical model, because cannabinoids are pleiotropic, meaning it works on multiple different physiological systems at the same time. And pharmaceuticals don't do that. So it's really a whole shift in perception as to how we approach and take care of patients, and really looking at total healthcare, THC, right? All of it, looking at the mind, body, spirit, biopsychosocial, spiritual. And we know as nurses that the drivers of health live outside of the conventional system and are modifiable by us as people, patients, providers, and consumers. And we have a job. It's just as nurses to teach and educate on what those things are. Living their best life. Someone playing?
I think somebody was biking and motorcycling by. So.
I thought it sounded like a guitar. I'm like, ooh, we got a guitar going on in the background. But anyways, so I'm really, really excited about that. And, and being a mom of 3, I've got 3 kids, might as well just put that right on the table. And the interesting thing, when I started using cannabis as medicine and I started writing education, wrote a manual for our patients. And, I wanted my kids to be able to understand it. And when I showed it to them, you know what they said to me? They go, Mom, marijuana and cannabis is the same thing. This isn't what they teach. This isn't what they teach us in school. And I was like, yeah, you're right. We can do better. We can do better. So we need to rewrite the DARE program with accurate information, for these kids. And, and my kids are healthier now. They see what it means to live a healthy lifestyle using cannabis and nutraceuticals and exercise and lifestyle as medicine, and that can be very powerful to see their mom go from sick and suffering to alive and thriving. And
showing them, being the model for how to truly tune into your body and how to heal yourself. That's an invaluable gift that you've given them. And I hope that I'm giving my kids as well, by example, showing them the ways that, yes, that I actually utilize plants in so many different areas of my life as, food, as medicine, as therapy. Really, I love gardening. For instance, I don't grow cannabis, unfortunately. I cannot where I live, but I grow lots of stuff. So I love the fact that the integration is happening more and more, and our children deserve, they deserve these tools. They deserve this knowledge. They deserve health.
They deserve to feel good, and they deserve to know the truth. Right. And that's the other thing. Can you, when you have kids learning information that isn't accurate, and then they have their parents that are medical cannabis patients, and, my mom's just trying to get through the day, living her best life, literally,
Yeah.
So it's very, very interesting just to see, how they're doing that, and how we're coming forth. It's really, and the children actually being liberal and vocal and being able to, say that I use CBD for medicine, and I'm using my CBD instead of Advil or Tylenol, and making other choices that are just appropriate, instead of just grabbing for something, really paying attention to their body. You're really not that hungry. You probably need to drink some water, just really teaching these kids how to listen to their smart body, because they see, when they see parents, they mimic. And so as moms, we need to be mimicking what we want our kids to do, and so.
And it's so easy as a mother, especially in this culture that's very forward driven, very outward driven, outward success, doing things for others, when it comes to moms, especially, it's really, really hard to do that for yourself, to take those, to truly take care. But as you've been saying, our kids are watching, and we are modeling the kind of lifestyle that, that they will emulate to some degree.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about stigma too, because, canna moms, you know how you have the wine mom and the canna mom, the wine mom and the weed mom. And let's talk about stigma around being a canna mom. What does that look like to you?
It's still around. These things fade slowly, I think. But, but like I was saying earlier, in places, in states where, where legalization is just more accepted, it's more normalized, everybody's seen that the sky hasn't fallen, everybody knows somebody who uses cannabis as medicine, and everybody knows someone who uses cannabis instead of alcohol or instead of, some other types of substances. So, I think that it's waning, but we've still got a road ahead of us. There's plenty, there's plenty of work to do. And I think that's why there are folks like us, like you and me, and like everybody in Courage in Cannabis, Dr. Bridget, because I think if we show ourselves as, as diverse as we are, different people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, but all thriving in our own ways, all showing up and being our best selves in our own really unique ways. I think that is the best, ambassadorship for cannabis, really, is like, be honest, show yourself as a cannabis consumer and live your best life, as you say a lot, right?
I do it. Live your best life. So where else have you had the chance to share the Weed Mom message so far?
Oh my gosh. Well, lots of places. It's been a wild ride the last few years, honestly.
I want to hear about the ride. I haven't talked to you in a while, so let's get into your ride. Okay.
Yeah, well, tons of cannabis media and podcasts, of course. That, has been so much fun getting to know cannabis media makers across like the whole space, lots of guest posts around cannabis, lots of Instagram, connections and little groups and book clubs and panels. Like, gosh, it's been quite a whirlwind. And then in terms of mainstream media, the BBC did a piece about canna moms and featured me pretty heavily. This was probably a year and a half ago by now. So that was a big one. And that led to some other British and other American kind of more mainstream folks picking it up, publications picking up that story. That was kind of fun. I've been asked to do a bunch of radio about cannabis and parenthood, some TV, some local news in various places. This year, I had a chance to speak at the Boise Hemp Fest. I had a chance to speak at the Oklahoma City Canna Moms Symposium. Had a chance to, travel actually quite a bit in the last couple of years to do Canna Mom events and panels, and the world of cannabis and parenthood is it's small and it's growing. There's a lot more of us talking about it now, I would say. So there's more opportunities to talk about it, which is fun. Yeah.
Nice. That's amazing. And so what other projects are you working on? What else you got going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of things right now.
I'll just tell you what ended up popping up in one of my memories was an article that you quoted me in psychedelics.
That's right. I do continue to write about psychedelics. And
it's funny because we just launched a psychedelic course, so it was very interesting that popped up. I was like, oh my God. And so it was interesting just to read again what you wrote and how some of that exactly is in our course.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I really enjoy writing about psychedelics. So I write for Double Blind Magazine, and I do some other freelancing about psychedelics and cannabis, and continue to guest in the cannabis space and lots of podcasts and community events type of thing. I am super excited too about co-leading a Canna Mom retreat in Colombia, South America, in January of next year with my friend Shannon, who's known as the Real Weed Mama. And she and I have partnered with Windhill Tours to just offer this really beautiful, we were calling it sensuous because it's about the senses, a Canna Mom experience with decriminalized cannabis available to us, with beautiful cuisine made by a local chef in a rainforest, just a pristine, gorgeous environment, community, yoga, seshing. I just can't wait for that. So
it's gonna be amazing.
I know.
give us some information so we can promote it, and is it limited space available?
It is limited space available, but we still have some spots. So I would love for you to get it out to your community. I have some info on my Instagram and Linktree, and I will send you some too, because it's just going to be such a treat for moms who can get away for about 6 days.
That's excellent. That is excellent.
So exciting.
So you've done a retreat before? You've done a cannabis retreat before? And what was your experience like?
Well, have I actually done a cannabis retreat before? That's a good question. I don't know that I have. I've done, 1,000,001 yoga retreats and meditation retreats, and I've led them over the years. But, integrating cannabis, this will be new.
Oh my God, that's going to be so exciting though. So that's going to be really fun. So we did a retreat. I did a retreat with Nurse Denise, and we did a retreat with 8 people up in Maine at an inn. And we actually took them on a dispensary tour, and it was interesting. Like they arrived at the inn, and it was, they were greeted with, it was unlimited cannabis the entire time, tons of CBD, and then education around all of the different types of products, the methods of administration, and how to consume. And then we would pair cannabis with the different endocannabinoid system enhancing activity. Right? So we did some fun things like, cannabis and yoga. We did cannabis and a breath work. We did cannabis and a water ceremony, cannabis and a drumming ceremony. We did an infused meals, and it was really kind of fun. All of the meals had little dishes. So you could have like low dose, medium dose, high dose, and sauces and dipping so people could consume, and then terpene infused drinks, which were great. So if you consume too much, there was like a lot of lemons and limes and terpenes, to help bring you down a little bit. So, but it was a beautiful experience of really connecting and really, and just sharing and learning and embracing and, being a facilitator, a nurse, I had just as an enriching experience, as a clinician there as I would have had being a participant. So it was lovely. And it was really lovely to meet people and just to connect on that level too. It's like, you feel like when you leave an environment like that, you have, just a whole new set of friends.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So much. And, and as a mom, it can be easy to neglect your friendships. Honestly, it can be easy to neglect those social relationships because with kids and often work on top of that, and any bit of self-care you can squeeze in, friendships can fall by the wayside, and it's not healthy for us as human beings to live that way. So we need connection. We need to be together, and it feels great to be in a Canamom community because, it is still a stigmatized thing. And so to get together with other moms who consume, who don't have that stigma, it feels really nice. So I'm super excited about that, and the travel aspect of it. Of course, I love to travel and have, my whole life been a traveler. So I can't wait for that. And I've got some other cool stuff. Fingers crossed that our Canamom panel with Miss Kindness Ramirez will, and some other really amazing folks, will make South by Southwest for next year. That where we've entered our panel, we've gone through that part of the process, and so now we're waiting for the results. That would
okay. And so tell me about that a little bit more for our viewers, a little backstory.
Yeah. So Ms. Kindness Ramirez, who is one of the contributors to Courage in Cannabis, she also wrote a Spark, and I've collaborated with her on tons of stuff in the past. She is just a fantastic woman with so much integrity in the cannabis space. And she has put together a group of speakers, all, she's calling it feminine forward conversations about cannabis. And we spoke together at I forgot to mention, we spoke together at the California State Fair in Sacramento this summer on a panel for Canamoms specifically. And so she's put together this panel that I am a part of. We submitted it for South by Southwest 2024. The process of getting selected for South by Southwest includes your panel application, followed by a picking period, a panel picker period, where folks vote. They get to see part of your proposal. They can upvote or downvote. It's actually really interesting to see all the different panels that are submitted to South by Southwest, and I went through many of them and voted on a bunch of others too. But so then that gets evaluated by the judges, and it's they determine it partially by votes and partially by judge evaluation. So we'll get to know fairly soon if we'll be speaking at South by Southwest next year.
It's so exciting. Good
Very
for
exciting.
you.
Very exciting.
Wow. Any other, you writing anything else? Any other books in the works?
I am freelancing still. The next book has not grabbed me, put its talons in me yet. So I don't know what it's going to be to be honest with you. I've played with some ideas around psychedelics and motherhood.
That's what I was going to ask. How about the psychedelic mom?
I know it would be, I'm still playing with it. It's still noodling in there. I've also been exploring more of my kind of, earth-centered spirituality with my daughter and kind of like a witch mom vibe. But, I don't know if I'm ready to write a whole book about that either. So I'm just, I'm doing the freelancing thing for now.
Yep.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're living your life, having the experiences to decide upon what you want to write about, right?
That's right. That's right.
You're living your best life.
And one more thing, actually, if you don't mind, I wanted to point out one more thing that I'm doing, which I'm actually really excited about. I think is going to be such an interesting project that we're just launching, just getting started. My friend Diana Crash, who hosts the podcast Your Highness, she and I are starting a podcast that's for all ages. So we want kids to be included in this, about talking about plants and plant medicine. So we're not going to limit it to cannabis or to psychedelics, but really about plants as medicine, plants as food, plants, and all the different ways we can use them and how we can open up these conversations with the kids in our lives. So I'm super excited about that. So stay tuned there.
That's great. That is going to be amazing. You have done some amazing work, Danielle. It's such an honor to have you on today. For new moms that are out there. So if there's a new mom that's out there that's like, I'm curious about cannabis besides getting your book, right?
Yes.
We definitely want all new moms to be getting Danielle's book. And you can see below in the comments, there's a link that you can purchase. Also, Courage in Cannabis book, Danielle's written in there as well as all of the other authors, celebrating those triumphant stories. What message would you have for someone that is new, a woman that is new, that is curious about cannabis and plant medicine?
I would say you don't have to be afraid. You only need to be educated and respectful and intentional with the plant. And it can be a tremendous support from others.
There you go. And with that being said, we have a free network. Woo! Free network, network.holisticcaring.com. It's run by nurses and our pharmacist. We have a free introductory cannabis course. And actually, Danielle's course, The Weed Mom, is located in the network for purchase if you're interested. Also in the network, we have a space for psychedelics. We're doing psychedelic education, integration, and support for people that are exploring, that are new, that want information. And we're going through the course. So once a month, we're going through the course and we're covering a section. Then we're having a discussion. So support group, education, webcasts, webinars, podcasts, courses, and nurses to answer your questions, all about plant medicine for free. And the show wouldn't be complete if I did not plug our sponsors. Our sponsor today is brought to you by Bloom Hemp. Life doesn't give you days off, but that's why there's Bloom. Bloom Hemp, 10% for Green Nurse, 10% off using the code Green Nurse. Bloom Hemp is a nurse and woman-owned company, CBD supplier, with over 22 SKUs, 30 different products, from broad spectrum to full spectrum to isolate to gummies to capsules. And what's really different about Bloom Hemp is that they offer a free nurse line and a free care plan. So go to www.bloomhemp.com. And if you do see something that you like, use Green Nurse for 10% off. So this has been an amazing show, Danielle. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sherri.
Yes, the Weed Mom, Courage in Cannabis author, Danielle Simone Brand. And remember, everyone, what it is all about. It is truly all about living your best life and helping others do the same.
Absolutely.
We're here to educate and empower patients to make choices that are best for them. We're also here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. Hence the H for hope, I for inspiration, G for growth, and H for healing. The Green Nurse is a holistic cannabis nurse that teaches on the endocannabinoid system and the safe utilization of cannabis and other progressive tools to help people reach a better quality of life.
I was cannabis agnostic for many, many years. And you know, the more research I did, the more I discovered that cannabis is this amazing medicine.
I was told that I had a 4-stage pancreatic cancer. The doctor really told me he couldn't do anything else. He gave me her name and she called me and she came to my house. She started to give me cannabis. My oncologist was puzzled because he couldn't find the cancer anymore.
All of the learning that we get comes from the Green Nurses group, comes from their support, comes from their guidance. I trust everything that she says.
Simply meet people where they're at. The plant doesn't, stress to grow, so we don't stress to share it. We're healing people.
Cannabis has been used as a medicine for tens upon thousands of years. Here's the big message. Cannabis needs to be federally legal. We need to have laws that are the same across all 50 states that allow access to anyone and everyone who wants to utilize this powerful medicine.